back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com. I think my balls have finally dropped. I think I got my voice back to full strength after that horrible episode. So welcome back. We are here, the Sooner Scoop crew. Eddie, do you want to just go ahead and you need a cough? Or
No, I think
coughing. I think Eddie's sick.
I'm a little under the weather
Damn
today. The show goes on.
There's a post on the Crimson Corner right now. It's like, you're not a superhero for going to work sick.
I'm not sick.
Okay.
He was up
You
too
have
late.
never admitted to being sick.
I'm in
your
the
entire
early
life.
stages of what I believe could be a sickness, but I have already remedied that with medicine today, and
And a vaccine.
well, no.
Have you seen his? Have you seen his? Have you seen his tweets?
The tears of libs is what I'm surviving on. No, I'm
You're
just
making
kidding.
them so mad.
They're
I'm
not angry. They're
tagging
angry with
Sooner
me.
Scoop so much. Like people think that like we're responsible enough to control you. Like get a grip,
I haven't
people.
said anything bad. I support these people. I'm trying to be a bridge for these people.
You're trying to decorate christen the new arena with their tears. You're trying to collect them right now.
It was an offering. I mean, I could have gone the other way and said they should be banned, but we're not going to do that.
I should say congratulations to you. The was it a measure, a bill passed, whatever? Just a tax passed.
A tax was passed, a $900 million arena coming to Oklahoma City. It was a great day for the Oklahoma City. It was a great day for the
I'm
Thunder.
congratulating you because you
Thank
voted.
you.
George did not. He's not.
Yeah,
He's
thank
a
you.
fake Oklahoma Cityan.
Thank you. We talked about that this morning. Is it Oklahoma Cityan or do we just say Oklahoman? I really don't know.
Well,
Well,
there's difference
I mean,
because
look-
you call a Tulsa a Tulsan. Like a Tulsa
I know.
person,
So
Tulsa.
if you're from Oklahoma City, do we consider ourselves Oklahoma Cityans?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay. I didn't know. I don't
like a
know.
Normanite.
Yes. You are a Normanite. Yeah.
So what would Carrie be? What is a dunk?
Normanite.
You can't be a dunk and then.
I've lived in Norman longer than anywhere else in my life, so I'm a Norman.
Okay.
I think
So
that's
you're-
what you should do too. Is you go
I think you
with
call-
where you've been for the longest.
You just called people from Dunkin' a Dunkin' Donut.
Do people say that?
No one says
I don't
that.
think- I don't think
My
Carrie's gonna
God.
like that.
That is so Bishop Kelly of you. Just Eurocentric. Just
Okay,
out
that's
on your own.
A low blow.
Anyway, well, what do you think Dunkin' Donut is? We call it Dunkin' America. Does everybody in a small town
Dunkin' America? Yeah.
call their town like Singer America or like
People from Jinx
Jet
call
Nash
it Jinx
America.
America.
Jinx America?
People say Jinx America.
because they're kind of out on the outskirts, or they were once.
well, and they just think very highly of themselves.
Man, wow, we're just attacking
They do.
listeners now.
I live in Jinx.
You realize how big of a listening population we have in Jinx? It's huge.
I know they're probably nodding their heads like, yeah, it is Jinx America.
Well,
It's Dunkin' America.
so
Million state champions.
well, and then you have Union that sees itself as apart from Tulsa because there are people. When I write a story in AP style and it's Tulsa Union, I get hate mail about that. Like it's just Union. It's not Tulsa. I'm like, no, I have to specify where
Hold on,
Union is because
it's
there are
just
lots of people
Tulsa.
that have no idea.
It's just Tulsa.
What?
You don't say Union. Union's not a city.
It's a school district
know.
though. Like Union people.
Bixby
will get,
is its own city.
I grew up calling Tulsa Union what you said, Josh. Tulsa Union, but
No one's on 71st going, hey, I'm out in Union right now.
no, I know.
Well,
You're right.
if I'm talking to
It's people
if I'm talking
that it's
to you
people that have
guys, I'd
gone
say
to
Union.
Yeah, it's people that have gone. Like I have.
So they
friends
say
that
they're
went to
from Tulsa Union?
No, they say they're from
Union.
Union. But
Union.
anybody else in
Really?
Tulsa
Yeah.
calls it Tulsa Union because Union is literally in the middle of Tulsa. It's
But-
not its own.
and reversely, for people like me and Josh that grew up in the Putnam City School District, I can't tell you how many people that I had fraternity brothers or whatever in college. They're like, "Oh, you're from Putnam City." I was like, "No. I'm from Oklahoma City, and I went to Putnam City School District. I went to North though. A clear distinction."
The conversation you have
God.
to have about the fact that Putnam City is not an actual city
Right.
is an amazing mind.
Right.
So
I don't even know where that is. Putnam City.
I mean, the school district is basically the entire northwest quadrant of Oklahoma City.
Well, isn't the equal argument in Oklahoma City, like the Village is actually a suburb, right? Or is
Technically, I believe it is
Like
a
Nichols
suburb. Like they
Hills-
have their own mayor.
Okay, does Nichols Hills have their own mayor, or are they just
No.
I think that
Are they
Nichols
like
Hills is
Union?
within Oklahoma City.
I think.
Same
I
thing
think
with
it's just a neighborhood more than it's like a.
But I think the village
An
is its like
actual
the
municipality.
village has its own tax code. Like when we sell merch, you've
so
seen
does,
that.
So does War Acres,
Oh,
which is by
Eddie
Bethany.
can attest. Growing up, if you were driving through the village or War Acres, you needed to be real careful about your speed. Those are places you don't
Yeah.
mess around.
well,
with.
not as much as
100%.
Nichols Hills, especially
100%.
unless you're in a poor person's
Well,
car.
we don't have that problem anymore.
We're in
Lexus.
Lexuses,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're good. We're good. I speed through Nichols Hills.
I do donuts just because I can now. Yeah, when I go see Gabe, I do a donut right in front of his house. So anyway,
Cayden Green might be able to get a Lexus soon.
I think
He might be able to
here's
get
the
more than a
problem.
Lexus.
He, from what we gather, he could get a Lexus now, just staying in Oklahoma, couldn't he?
Yeah, I think so. What a
What
Josh.
just a crazy. Okay, so let's set the scene real quick.
Sure.
So yesterday we're out at practice. 12:30, we got to go out and shoot photos and videos, and it was like I don't know what it was like, but it was weird. Did you guys feel like the whole day was just weird because
it's
Brent
just weird
Venables
because
wasn't there?
There's a bunch of coaches missing. So there
so,
wasn't.
so Britt is in town. He was there yesterday. I never saw him. Ryan said
practice?
that. Yeah, he came out as we were walking off, as everything was going down.
Okay, so so anyway, so we're at practice. We'll get into those details in a minute. We're at practice. We're taking our photos, videos. I think Bob. It was either you or Bob someone had contacted us about, hey, check into about Cayden Green. There might be something going on there. And I think it was someone that saw him wheeling things out of Headington into a car, which I did confirm was exactly true. And we'll get more into that. So that's going on. And like as we're ending, the Hayes
Fawcett.
I wanted to say like I would be I'm very sensitive about Hayes because if I say the wrong thing, then he gets mad at me. But like, I was thinking like Fawcett's not a real name. Like that sounds like I'm making fun of him, but it's Hayes Fawcett.
Yes.
That does all the edits for On 3. He releases an edit saying that Cayden Green is entering the transfer portal. And by the way, as of last night, he had not officially, from what I've checked, he had not officially. Have you checked this morning to see if he's in there?
I haven't seen anything tweeted. Like I don't have true access to it, but it hasn't been tweeted, by one of the national guys, whether it be Zenitz or Wilfong or whoever.
Yeah,
Hayes.
I knew as
that
of last
he's
night.
not officially in yet. I don't know if he's done the paperwork.
Correct.
Well, I was told is he went to the compliance office to pick up the paperwork, but as of last night and this morning now, apparently, that has not been filed.
Correct. I've heard the same thing.
Okay.
It's not through compliance yet.
So we're walking out of practice and we're like, shit, we have to go back in 50 minutes to do post game. And so we go out there, we're doing the post game. I was with McCade most of the time. I know Jackson Arnold was there, so everybody wanted to talk to him. Obviously, I think Eddie, you were with
I was
Danny
with Danny,
most of the
yeah.
time. And I know Billy Bowman was asked about it. I asked McCade Matire about it. God damn, this is going to haunt me forever. Anyway, they were clueless that he was leaving.
I asked Billy Bowman yesterday. He had no idea.
Yeah.
Didn't know.
And really, McCade and Billy kind of had the same reaction, which was, I know what you guys are telling me. I can't really comment on it because I don't know if this is true. Like, they were as shocked as anybody that he would leave. Like, they had no indications that anything, that he was in any way dissatisfied.
McCade was like stumbling over his words to basically be like, I don't know if that's true. I hope it's not true.
Yeah.
I don't think it's true. I love the guy.
Yeah.
I hope that's not what's happening.
And I asked him, I was like, as it kind of whittled down, I was like, what's it like when someone tells you news like that? Like, is your head just swimming as you're trying to process it and people are asking you all these questions? Like, that's got to be a weird thing. And that's when he kind of went into, I don't know if this is true. I don't want it to be true. Like, I have to get out of here and find out what's going on. And I think it's one of those deals where, I don't know, guys, I feel like Cayden Green kind of separated himself and let other people kind of take control of this thing, because I can tell you a staffer was driving by. He was packing up before practice, or right as they were getting out there on the practice field. And So a staffer was driving by and saw him and stopped and asked, like, what's going on? Is everything okay? And he just told him to talk to his dad. And then I'd heard that Curtis Lofton went over there and tried to talk to him afterwards, and the whole thing was just really weird. And so, I mean, we're just left in this fog of weirdness as we left the practice field yesterday, trying to piece together exactly what, and then you're trying to figure out who's behind this, like what's, and I know we had people like, what do you know? And like Josh, even like some Mizzou guys that we know are reaching out to us saying, what do you guys know about this? Because obviously Missouri's going to be in the mix here if he's leaving Oklahoma, because they were in the mix before he signed. And, you know, we're trying to piece this all together. I described it this morning like it's a lot like instant replay in the NFL. Like when they're like, we're going to take all these angles and we're going to piece them together and figure out exactly if the ball crossed the goal line. Like that's what we were trying to do yesterday.
I'm kind of like Josh for the first hour or so, as we're like kind of taking everything in, just kept checking my phone. Like, surely this is like a mistake right now. Like maybe he thought about it and didn't really initially, because everything that we had heard was there was no like unhappiness about the situation, Josh.
Yeah, like I kept looking at my phone thinking like grandma died or something. Like something, there's some reason he's having to leave so abruptly and he's got something he's got to deal with, or, you know, like something explainable, something that made sense. And I can't come up with anything, guys, because I mean, I know people were like, well, it's he's mad that he's not going to play tackle. I don't know that he wasn't going to get a chance to play tackle. Like I don't think that is reasonable to assume. Now, I know they brought in Spencer Brown, but Cayden Green tweeted Spencer Brown when he came in. It was like, welcome, fam. Like, you know, that's not a guy that's acting like he's got a problem. And then, you know, people say, oh, the NIL stuff. Guys, I think if anybody on earth knows how valuable linemen are, particularly in the SEC, it's Brent Venables. Like he knows that Cayden Green was going to be a foundational piece, not just of that line, but of that team for the next couple of years. Like they were going to do everything they could, and from what we've all gathered, they were trying to. They thought everything was going to be fine, and they were in good position. It was never voiced to them that there was a problem, which leads me to really the one thing I can kind of singularly contribute. I've known Cayden. I've known his family for a while. That's, to me, when I talk to sources and when I talk, you know, just looking at my own experience with them, that's the most surprising thing of this whole deal is that family has been incredibly forthright, has always been very quick to respond. Guys, I can tell you he has family members that listen to this podcast, like 100%, and would talk to me about funny conversations we've had and stuff that we do. And that was before Cayden even committed. So, like, this isn't some family that has a grievance with Oklahoma, or it's really hard to explain, because I know people say, well, it's just NIL money. Oklahoma was more than willing to be reasonably competitive. Now, if he's going to go get, you know, money like we've talked about with Williams Nwaneri, another Lee Summit North guy, then, hey, you know, I guess best of luck. I still don't know how that's sustainable, but, you know, I get it. You know, if it's Missouri, they're trying to make a run. They think they've got a chance to be somebody next year. Like, I get it. But I don't know. The whole thing is just really, really hard to make sense of.
The thing that really rubbed me the wrong way is just the fact that his position coach, Bill Bedenbaugh's out of town recruiting, and it just seems so slimy, the way that everything went down with just basically leaving in the middle of the night and not saying anything to anybody. Like, if you're going to enter the transfer portal, it is what it is. That's the world of college football right now, which is starting to become a little bit gross. But at the same time, at least have the decency or dignity or whatever you want to call it to go to your position coach or head coach and say, hey, I'm putting my name in the transfer portal.
And didn't he have a meeting this weekend with them that basically, like, everything's fine moving forward? Like, there was no sign of...
I think it was more of like a exit interview, just in terms of they do it with every player.
Right.
And they meet with the NIL companies and they, you know, determine, you know, this is where you are. And I think they, from everything that we'd heard, like, they went through that with flying colors. Like, they were happy with everything that they heard. They're ready to move forward, stay here. And all of a sudden, you know, his dad's deleting his Twitter account.
Like that, the whole thing was just like, people are going to obviously speculate if you just pack up and leave, don't say anything to anybody, and then the dad deletes his Twitter account. Like, what is everybody else supposed to think if they wanted to handle this the right way?
Something really shady just happened.
Yeah, sure.
That was definitely when my alarms went up, because I can tell you, I mean, I've talked to his dad specifically a lot through the last year and a half, and I had messaged him like 2 weeks ago about something really unrelated, and he hadn't gotten back to me. That was really weird, but I thought, it's a holiday, stuff going on. It didn't register as anything important. And then yesterday, when I first got word of something was happening, it was probably about 10 minutes before that Hayes Fawcett thing, before he tweeted that out, I went to message him and I couldn't find him. And I'm like, what is, like, what, why is Twitter screwing up? Like, cause I know his name. Like I was like, I can find him. And then all of a sudden I had to go back through it and find like a mention of his name to find our conversation. And then all I saw was my messages to him, and there was no messages coming back. And I'm like, what has happened? And then I'd click on his name and he was just gone. And you're like, oh, that's not a good sign. Like that just reeks of. Now, Cayden's mom is still there. Like she's still, her account's still listed. So I don't know what to make of that. It just, there's too many things that tell me people are acting like, I don't know, like a guilty conscience almost. It's kind of what it feels like. Like leaving during practice, that didn't happen by accident. You know why you were leaving then, because everybody was not going to be there to see you.
Yeah, and now moving forward, like the big question is he gone? Like, is there any way that OU can get in there and get back involved in getting him to return? Because, I mean, obviously he's not going to be playing in the bowl game because he's not practicing. Like, whatever has happened in order to turn this in, the direction where he's leaving, is there any hope? And I'll say this, if he's leaving for just a truckload of money, he's a freshman that's played 5 games. I mean, like, that was a guard instead of a tackle, like, that wasn't their best option at tackle. Like, is that guy worth $1 million or whatever's being thrown around? I mean, I'd have a hard time believing somebody's giving Cayden Green $1 million.
Well, unless it's somebody that just has a shitload of money and they just throw, I mean, some of these programs, I think, just throw around that money like it's nothing. I don't know.
Do they, though? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I think all this money is funny money. We hear all these numbers all the time, and I'm calling bullshit on a lot of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, you can sign a contract. It doesn't mean anybody's going to follow through on it, and especially with a college kid like that. Not that all college kids come from nothing. I hate that stereotype, but just an average middle-class family. You sign a contract for $1 million and somebody walks away from it, just says, I'm sorry, we're not paying it. What's your recourse? I mean, you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees to get back money that you're probably never going to see. I mean, it'll get deferred, and it's like this is all on paper. It's not reality until you actually get, like, we don't know. You saw the thing from the A&M guys. They were like, we were living on sliced bread. Like, if we were millionaires, nobody told us. Like, there's no guarantee that anybody has to follow through on this stuff.
And guys, I mean, and if that's the number, I don't have a problem with OU walking away. There's no college offensive lineman that's worth that money. Nobody. Like, it's not that they're not good enough, because I know people say, well, if he's an NFL guy, he'll make a lot more than that. Sure, he will. There's a whole setup of how that works. You're just talking about donors giving away money. Like, that's paying that kind of money to any one player outside of, like, Caleb Williams or somebody really elite. That's not sustainable. That's just not something that people can live with year in and year out. And the market, I've said it over and over again, the market will correct. Like, people are not going to live like that, even if that money is real.
I mean, I could see $1 million for your whole starting offensive line.
Yeah. Yes, that's possible. Absolutely. And a good offensive line at that.
The whole thing, it seems like, is a little out of control. Like, and I know that Oklahoma benefited from the portal yesterday. Like, you don't land the number 1 wide receiver in the in the portal without something going positive for your NIL. But at the same time, it just seems like it's starting to reach a point where there does need to be some type of regulation in terms of transfer portal and the amount of guys. Like, I'm not against it. I'm not completely there yet, but it does seem like this thing has become kind of an animal in and of itself. And it's really, truly kind of eating the sport. Like, I'm closer now than I ever have been with people on the message boards that it's just kind of disgusting right now.
Here's my question, though. How many of these, like, how real is this? Are we making this to be all about a big payday, or is it something else? Because if you look around the country, Josh, how many of these types of occurrences have we really seen where someone poaches a player from another team for a big payday?
It happens, but not for guys like this that are both at need positions and are clearly having success. Like, it's a guy that, like, a good comparable example is Chase Basantis at Texas A&M. Had a great freshman year, was a starter, clearly an NFL type player. His coach got fired. His offensive coordinator got fired. His offensive line coach got fired. Like, there is a clear reason why he would say, I want to look around. Cayden Green, he's got nothing but continuity, save for Jeff Lebby, who wasn't, it wasn't like any fun foundational piece of his recruitment or anything. So I don't know. Like, it's definitely rare. This, guys, I mean, I would say of the last 5 to 10 years, whether be it portal or NFL, this is the most surprising departure I've seen from Oklahoma. Like, this one just still shocks me. Like, I can't make sense of it.
But like, if this stuff is really happening, then why isn't Ollie Gordon going somewhere else? Like, if you're really, if there are really places that are going in and poaching players, in paying a lot of money, why wouldn't you do Ollie Gordon before you did an offensive lineman? Because OSU would be ripe for that situation. I mean, they're not. Maybe they would put together $1 million if they had to keep him, but I bet Mike Gundy would be like, we're not paying a player $1 million. Like, so why isn't it happening to Ollie Gordon if this is really happening with Cayden Green? That was my question.
I mean, I think that for maybe one guy, I think there is enough NIL, and I'm talking out of my ass on this, but I would think in Stillwater there's enough NIL to keep somebody like that around. They go, we're going all in on this guy. He's basically the future of the program. And then on the flip side of it, I mean, I think that he probably, like, everything that you can tell from the outside looking in, I think he really enjoys Stillwater.
Or it's this. It is that most people are in a position where, the school might go to them and say, look, we know you're doing this in NIL. We really appreciate you. We want to give you more. We want to do this for you. And the player's probably like, wow, I didn't ask for that, but I really appreciate it. Of course I'm going to stay. Like, I think that's how most kids would be. But you are going to have some situations, and this seems like one of them, where the kid is not in control. Like, someone else is pulling the strings, going out there looking for a better deal. That's the impression I get. That's, how, and I could be wrong, but everything that we've seen over the last 24 hours leads me to believe. You know how many people have told me that Cayden Green's response to everything has been, go talk to my dad? That's troubling. That says he's not the one making the call on this.
Yeah, or it could be somebody that, I don't know, like, it could just be somebody that has made a decision and he doesn't want to have to stand in front of people and explain it.
Yeah.
Go talk to my dad.
But
it's not me.
I don't know if I like that either.
Yeah, I don't like that.
What we need clear vision on this thing. It is time for the Enjoy Vision, fresh perspective, look around, which we've been looking around the Cayden Green situation. And we need LASIK because we still can't figure it out. Eddie, how can they help me?
Well, all they got to do is go to Enjoy Vision, which is the best laser vision center in Oklahoma City, and it's not even close. The combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care was life-changing for me. What they're doing for the Unofficial 40 listeners, they're giving a $400 off of LASIK. If you're interested, all you got to do is go to enjoywithme.com. That is the letter NJOY with me.com, and use promo code U40, $400 off LASIK. Enjoy Vision. This is where you LASIK.
Now, that U40 does not get you an extra Valium. The one's for free.
No, you got to sweet talk yourself into that.
All right. By the way, they give you the Valium to calm you down because you really need to be calmed down.
Yeah, you can't have twitchy eyes.
Okay, so anybody else want to jump in on the Cayden Green thing before we move on to Danny Stutsman and Billy Bowman?
I think it is what it is, and I think to your point of it happening other places, I do think I don't know if it's like this because it does feel like, and again, we don't know this for sure, but it does feel like he was tampered with and they kind of shopped around his...
Well, he wasn't even in the portal and he was leaving, so
right.
I mean, of course there was some type of tampering.
But I do think there's a large group of guys that are getting in the portal either because their parents tell them to or they think they should, and they just get in it to up their NIL money. They think they can get more money, and they use it as a negotiate. It's leverage. Like, I think that's a large portion of it. And I think NIL by itself is not a terrible thing. Transfer portal by itself is not a terrible thing. But when you combine the two, you just get this like cesspool of it just becomes really scummy. And I don't know if it's ruining the sport. It just has totally changed it. And it's not fun for fans, especially. For players, I'm sure it's great. They get paid and they get to go somewhere else, but it does feel like there needs to be some sort of regulation on this stuff because it's getting out of hand for things like this. Like, this shouldn't happen. Like, Cayden Green, when was the last time somebody like this just left Oklahoma? A starting offensive lineman at the University of Oklahoma is just like, oh, I'm just going to leave.
Without reason.
Yeah.
Or that we know of.
Well, I mean, Josh and I can go back to the 2000s and, Mark Mangino's running people off, and, Kevin Wilson was no picnic either for a lot of guys. But, yeah, it's been a long time. I mean,
and people are ripping Bill Bedenbaugh, and he certainly deserves some blame for where the room is, because you lose one guy and all of a sudden you're like, this thing is in shambles, and that's on him for sure. But in terms of losing Cayden Green in this situation, I don't know if it's necessarily his fault.
Both can be true. It's not necessarily his fault, but it's in a way that the entirety of the situation in the offensive line room needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed almost immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, we were out there at practice yesterday.
It's thin,
starting
man.
a true freshman quarterback, and we know what that situation is like behind him. December 28th is going to be very scary. Just in terms of, can you get away with, like, we were sitting here yesterday just trying to figure out what the offensive line is going to look like. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can piece it together for the bowl game, but then when you don't have Walter Rouse and you don't have McCade Mettauer.
I mean, there's a chance their starting offensive line next year is 4 transfers and Jacob Sexton.
Yeah.
Very much so.
All right. Like you said, the portal, we're going to get to more of that because there is some good news in the portal for Oklahoma and some things happening. But yesterday's the first day we had a chance to talk to Danny Stutsman and Billy Bowman since they publicly announced that they were coming back. And, I mean, it was kind of, Steve Stutsman, give him a lot of credit. He went out and basically did every type of media he could think to do. Radio, us, other websites. He basically wanted to say, like, this is what happens. Let's just talk about it. He did tell Brent Venables he was leaving. He did change his mind. He did come back. The video was done for something else. It wasn't done for this. And then yesterday you guys got to talk to Danny, and he basically laid the same thing out there.
Yeah, and it was a very candid conversation for about 10 minutes yesterday. Just everything that went into the decision that he made last week, talking about, going in and having that initial conversation with Brent and basically laying it out there that he was comfortable with moving on from Oklahoma. And
I loved how he said, like, I had to be 100% in my decision talking to Brent that I was going to leave because I never would have been able to get him off the phone if I was wishy-washy.
He knew that if he went in wishy-washy that he was going to probably end up walking out having changed his mind. And ultimately, I do think that, the decision that he finally reached in coming back to Oklahoma, I think he probably always wanted to do it, but there was always that, what if? What if this happens? What if this, what if you do come back and get hurt?
And he's been hurt all year.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that, there's a lot of frustration, I'm sure, with kind of how everything was going down, just with his personal health and looking to the future. I think one thing that is also probably has kind of gone under the radar Danny's 20 years old still. Like, we feel like he's been around here forever.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He's 20 years old.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you asked him, George, about Billy's decision that came out on Friday night, and how much that played into it. And he almost cut you off and was like 200%.
Yeah.
Billy's decision to come back. He talked about after the TCU game, their personal conversations in wanting to do whatever they do together. Because Steve reminded me about this on the radio on Tuesday morning. Him, Danny, Billy, Jalil Farouk, Ethan Downs. Those are the last 4 guys left from that 2021 class. It's kind of crazy to think about, as as many stars as they brought in that group with Caleb Williams and everybody else. It's just crazy to think that those are the last 4 guys standing. I think it means something to them to be able to come back and kind of usher in this new era of Oklahoma football.
Just waiting for Josh so I don't dominate the pod. But
I'm always worried in those moments because I know there's a slight lag. I can't hear it, but like when I go back and listen, there's always a moment where I'm hesitating too long. So I never know when to fill in there. But yeah, Eddie's right. I mean, that class, you go back and look at it and all the hope that was there, and that was going to be, but Clayton Smith, Mario Williams, now Savion Byrd, Kelvin Gilliam, Cody Jackson. You just go down the list. I mean, there were a lot of guys, the infamous Latrell McCutcheon. I mean, there are a lot of guys there that were really high value players, and to only have 4 of them left 3 years later, or even 2.5 years later, is just, that's wild. I mean, and some of it's the NIL and portal era, like we get that, and the coaching change, but even with all that considered, that number explains some of the growing pains they've gone through the last 2 years.
And you always have a certain amount of miss in every class. I mean, it just happens. There's no perfect class.
Yeah.
The Billy Bowman thing I thought was surprising to me, just how much Danny was willing to admit that factored into his decision to come back, because I think we just kind of thought like, that's great for Billy and it's good for the team, but I don't know if that has any bearing on Danny Stutsman, and it really did. Well,
I think, because I asked Billy if he kind of recruited Danny, I do think Billy, because Billy was originally not going to make a decision until after the bowl game, and I do think part of Billy's decision to say, because I think he always knew he was going to come back, I think his decision to go ahead and say it was to maybe kind of put the pressure on Danny. And I think him putting it out there, he knew what he was doing by doing that, because Danny immediately apparently reached out to Billy and was like, man, I'm rethinking my decision now since you said that you're coming back. And again, I don't want to say we should take credit for it, but like I do think Danny saw the response when we broke the news that he was, potentially leaving or telling the staff he was leaving. I think that also he kind of saw the pressure of it, and not to say he was pressured into coming back, but I do think that it made him rethink all of it, Billy's decision, all that kind of.
Just in terms of like talking to Billy too yesterday, we might have talked about this on the
Billy's so sharp
thing. His growth of just like the confidence that he has in talking to the media, and you can watch the full interview on the Sooner Scoop editorial page. It's incredible. Like the last 6 months, he's so comfortable with kind of being the leader, the guy. Mm-hmm. Like I was joking around with him, not really a joke, but I basically asked him if it adds a chip on his shoulder that he got screwed over by the Thorpe committee. And he was very open and honest. He was like, yeah, that's something that I want to win before, my career's said and done. And he was also pretty candid just in saying that he didn't think he was ready to go.
Yeah.
I think Billy Bowman is like the perfect marriage of, in terms of a Brent Venables player, of work ethic and attitude. Like he gets it. And I'm not saying he's like a Brent mini-me, but all the things that he cares about, like him saying, I'm not a complete player yet. I'm not where I need to be as a football player, so I needed to come back for a year. Like Brent couldn't ask for a better attitude from one of his best players. I mean, that's a national championship level marriage of player and coach.
Correct. And you saw that time and again with Brent at Clemson. He always was able to get guys to come back. And I was trying to think, when was the last time, because it feels like every year Oklahoma has this situation where they have a couple guys who are like, man, if they could come back, it would help them a lot. When was the last time Oklahoma had that type of caliber of a player? Honestly, the one I thought of, and it's because he got an extra year because of the Big 12, was Baker. I mean, Baker could have gone after 2016 to the NFL and got drafted in the second, third, fourth round, whatever. But he got the extra year and came back. I mean,
could have given the team over to Kyler. And
correct. I mean, that's the last one I can think of that Oklahoma actually won that battle of getting somebody to stay.
But as you said, on the defensive side, it's even.
I mean, they had Kenneth.
Remember
Kenneth Murray?
Yeah,
could have come back, which he ended up getting taken in the first round, so he made the right decision.
Overall or whatever it was. Yeah.
But
7th. What was he?
I can't. No, he was like 19th, I think, overall. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, they haven't had a guy come back like that in a long time, and they got 2 of them.
And a lot of times, guys have left in, like Neville Gallimore was one of those guys, right? He could have come back and he left, but he was drafted. But a lot of times they'll have defensive guys that leave and just get free agency deals. I mean, and then I think was it Dom Alexander? Did he leave early? But he got drafted.
Yep. Yeah. Tony Jefferson and Kenny Stills are the 2 famous ones for doing it.
Kenneth Murray was the 23rd pick.
Trey Norwood could have come back. He had that 2020 year.
We all thought it was,
and he left to be a 7th round pick.
We all thought it was the worst decision in the entire world. Like, okay, this guy's not going to ever get drafted. Then he gets drafted, and then all of a sudden you look up 8 months later or whatever, and he's picking balls off in the NFL for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, he's been pretty good. I don't know recently how much he's doing, but I'm not watching the Steelers play football. I'm sorry.
Well, he's on the Bills practice squad now. I had to look.
Oh, is it really?
I wasn't sure where he was.
And what's interesting about those 2 though, Billy and Danny, is I do think they both got pretty good grades, and I don't know how much they can improve them because of the positions that they play. It's going to be tough to move up from a 2nd or 3rd round grade for them. But like them talking about how much they love the university and playing for Brent, I think that really resonated with the fans because it wasn't a situation they're like, oh, well, you know, I think I can get a better draft grade. It was, no, we love the University of Oklahoma. We want to see this thing through. And then I think like them saying the SEC played a huge factor in it and wanting to help OU in their first year. I think, I don't know, it came off the right way.
Can I also tell you, George, how much I appreciate the fact that the last 2 days, one on the YouTube show and here today, you said, I don't think we deserve any credit for breaking that news, but I think we should get credit for breaking that news.
I'm just saying the haters are going to hate, but we had it right all along. And
are you done being salty, George, on Twitter?
No.
Here's
my thing about this, and I'll stop talking about it because I think I'm rubbing people the wrong way. But all we have in this business is our credibility, and so when people question that, even though when we were right,
we actually really care pisses about me being off. Right or wrong about stuff, and not just throwing shit against the wall.
Because that's all we have in this business is to be credible. And so when people are saying that we're not, that really pisses me off. Everything else, you can call me a shithead all you want, but don't tell me that I was wrong on a report.
That's why he's here, ladies and gentlemen. We share the same hive mind as far as that's concerned.
And that wasn't even it was your story, but it was just bullshit. People are just also, they don't have media literacy. That's the issue.
It's a big problem. Okay, Jackson Arnold, he was able to meet with the media yesterday. I thought it was great for him to just kind of get out there as QB1. And it's not just what we're going to see on the field, but going from Dylan Gabriel to Jackson Arnold, to me, that was equally as jarring. Like, oh, okay, we got a youngster here we're dealing with. Like,
he needs a haircut.
What?
God.
Jackson looks great.
I mean, he looks okay. I just think he could. I think he could.
We need to separate Dick on Twitter versus Dick in real life.
I'm not being a dick. I'm just being honest. I think he could use a haircut, and I also don't know if the goatee's a good look.
2 straight weeks. Kerry's getting clipped. That's not good.
I'm getting clipped.
You want to separate Dick on Twitter and Dick on here. I don't think that's going to go well for you, man. That doesn't seem good at all.
Yeah. Do your worst, Internet. Do your worst. Because I'm the one that clips things around here lately. But I'm not clipping myself and make myself look bad. Anyway, no, but back to just talking to Jackson. It's very much like he's very excited. He doesn't really know why, but He's very excited.
Yeah, he's real quiet. Like, and Dylan was quiet, but like you could tell Dylan really matured into his position. But, I think Jackson definitely is still kind of feeling that out. Like, what was his quote yesterday where he was just like, it just felt strange?
Actually, you know what? We've just pissed off Bob Przybilla because I just now remembered he was the one interviewing Jackson.
All right, Bob, here you go.
So you're going to give way to Bob Przybilla now. Yes, it's Bob's time. He has demanded. He is. I mean, I admire you, man. You get the out of my chair. This is my time.
That question?
Okay, so, as we were saying, and I know you've been listening in the hallway, but
of course,
it was very different talking to a young quarterback after we were just sending off a veteran in Dylan Gabriel.
Those first 2 minutes were brutal. Just absolute, wow, the awkward silence. We didn't realize the answers were going to be so short. Like, what's going to happen here? But as you kept going, from minutes 5 through 12, he got some really good answers. And I did ask because he brought up that their first practice getting ready for this bowl game was just off. Energy's off. Something's going wrong. And I'm like, well, what's your role in that now? You're the starting quarterback. You're quarterback one. You need to do something. He's like, yeah, I'm just not used to it. I've been in that backup role the entire time, and now I realize I've got to speak up. I've got to be the glue for what this offense is going to look like.
All right, we're going to continue here with Bob Przybilla. I want to remind you guys, Dead Soxy. Go check them out. Great sponsor of the pod. DeadSoxy.com. Dead Soxy. They've got the athletic colorways, or just the colorways. You can get the athletic. You can get the no-shows. You can get the boardroom. They've got all kinds of different packs that you can get, and you use that promo code SCOOP. You're going to get 25% off your entire order, or whatever the best offer is going right now, which currently I think it's 33% off. But use that promo code SCOOP when you are in the checkout, and you'll get the best discount they have, either 25%, and I believe right now it's 33%. So you get that on all items, sell items, deadsoxy.com. We love them here. We've talked about them ad nauseum. You know what to do. Go deadsoxy.com. Use that promo code SCOOP, and you'll get great discounts on your next order. And as always, stay Soxy. Okay, so outside of that, Bob, let's get your take. It was just a weird day yesterday, and not so much because of the Cayden Green stuff hanging over, but just the start of – it's always like this. It's been a while. I don't think we ever had we never had any kind of access during the Lincoln Riley era during bowl practices. So Brent's more old school with that. He lets us come out, watch stuff until they get into team drills, but it very much reminded me of the old days when they'd usually be in the indoor facility. Eddie, you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
But it's just not as many bodies out there.
It's like a skeleton of what the team usually
you have
a lot of
roster
people
turnover.
Changing numbers, so you don't know who some of these guys even are.
But Tawi Walker was out there. We haven't even talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird for me when I saw Drake Stoops. I was like, oh, I thought he was done. It's like, oh, shit, this is a bowl game. Like,
one more.
There's one more to go. So it was just odd.
Joshua Bates was the one I kept coming back to because I think we all thought Troy Everett is going to be the guy, but from when we were there, Troy Everett never did anything. He's dressed out, but he's not participating in any of it. So it's Joshua Bates that was getting all the reps at center.
And Jackson was with him the entire time.
Exactly. And you're like, is Bates going to be the guy in San Antonio? 2 weeks?
I don't think it's crazy, and I think that we threw this out there yesterday on the practice report on YouTube. I don't think it's crazy that McCabe Matower plays center in the bowl game.
And he said something about that. He's like,
yes, he did.
He was like, I can do that. It's not a problem. I know everything that, we do on this offensive line. So, that's a great option if you have to use it. I don't know who would play for him at the guard spot. I would assume Caleb. I always want to say
Schaefer.
Schaefer.
Yeah.
So, you would probably say, have him out there. But like we said, Bob, it gets really weird when you start talking about this offensive line past the bowl game.
Oh, yeah. We've been wondering about Jake Taylor for like the last couple months because they kept him at four games. So he redshirted this year. I don't know if that was intentional.
And again, the bowl
Or
games
not.
don't count against
Correct.
your eligibility.
It does not count, so he could definitely play. But we've been sort of wondering, what is his position going to be? Might he just luck into, Josh, playing a spot that he wants to just because there's no one else there?
Josh has muted himself.
It's not basketball, Josh.
Damn it! I thought it was basketball. So I had muted myself so that none of my shenanigans would be heard. Yeah, guys, you just look at it, and it was already going to be tight with numbers and tight with guys that you felt like, okay, those are impact guys. And now, I mean, it feels like Jake Taylor, maybe this year was a plan to redshirt him, okay, and then figure out where he's going to belong. But you started to make sense of it, especially when they landed Spencer Brown. You thought, okay, this line's starting to come together. You can see this probably working out and having some nice pieces to start with, and Sexton and Green. And now you're like, wow, this is – I mean, don't get me wrong. It's Bill Bedenbaugh. He'll patch it together. It will be at least a serviceable offensive line. But I was starting to think, okay, maybe this could be better than I expected it to be. And now I'm like, man, they are so at risk with bodies and numbers next year that they're almost going to have to take 4 portal guys if Cayden Green doesn't come back. And there aren't 4 guys most years in the portal that should be playing football for Oklahoma on the offensive line. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean it's because, and it's tough when you're watching the portal too, because there are guys in there that have already been swiped up that you thought, okay, knowing what they know now, they could have made a push for that guy.
Sure.
Yep.
So that really screws them from that perspective as well. And that's the thing too. Like, the guys go in the portal, it's a very natural thing when it works how it works. Like, you enter your name in the portal, everybody comes after you, and you get to pick the best place and someone that can sell you on how good your NIL offer might be. Whereas this way with Cayden Green, it turns everybody's quick to say this is ruining college football. I think George did that a little bit. It's not when it's done properly. I mean, when it seems very fair, for a guy to go from South Carolina to NC State, or who was the quarterback that just picked in? Oh, the guy from Coastal Carolina, the McCall kid. Like, that seems fair. Like,
sure.
That it helps the kid. It helps NC State. They get a decent quarterback. It seemed to. I'm sure that with Notre Dame last year, it seemed like Sam Hartman kind of had his destination set before he entered the portal.
So did Riley for that.
Oh yeah, Riley Leonard. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, but it's not. If it's done cleanly like that, and you make I'm going in the portal, and then the next day you announce, I'm at Notre Dame, I don't have a problem with that. But Sam Hartman I'm sure he didn't sneak out of his dorm during the middle of a practice.
Yeah.
And it's like something we'll talk about here shortly. Deion Burks is a great example. I mean, that's how the portal process is supposed to work.
You go in, you talk to the teams that are interested.
You get offers galore. You find out, what your market looks like, and you make your choice. You pick the OU receiver from Purdue, and it's like,
it seems like Andrell Anthony kind of worked the same way.
Yeah, and that's why is there a saving grace perhaps with some of the playoff teams? That's why we talked about this in our text group. But I'm surprised how many guys from Texas are entering the portal when they could be. I know maybe they're not part of the playoff plans, but experience the playoff atmosphere, be a part of those practices, and instead they're bolting. I'm wondering because Andrell Anthony made his decision after they lost to the Frogs. So I'm wondering, can they get some offensive line help from some of these teams in the playoff, and that's where they have to start looking toward.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, do you see anything out there right now where you could change course and maybe? I mean, I don't want to say lower divisions or anything, but hell, after watching what Oklahoma State did, last year with lower division guys, I don't think it's such a bad idea if you evaluate them as someone capable.
Well, and the argument that I get into people about Bill Bedenbaugh or with, God, I don't know where I was going with that. The conversation I have about Bill Bedenbaugh is so often. Yeah, sorry, I got trapped in my words there.
I can tell you what, you're not arguing with Bill Bedenbaugh because I've seen him out of practice. He's a scary man to argue with. I would not. I wouldn't want to step past that line.
No, he's a guy. I've obviously run into him on plenty of high school sidelines, and Bill is not a guy that leaves a lot of room for debate. So
I've been to a wedding with him, and he's still an offensive line coach.
Somebody put it out today, and it was the top 5 ranked offensive linemen that Bill Bedenbaugh assigned. 4 of the 5 are like Bray Walker, Cayden Green. Now there was
Nate Anderson.
I'm gonna blank on the list, but what was that?
Nate Anderson.
Yeah, guys that haven't done that well, and then you look at Creed Humphrey, Orlando Brown, Ben Powers, Drew Samia, all these guys that have had real success. So I think there is something to a Bill Bedenbaugh kind of guy. And I know that goes against me saying stars matter and all that stuff. I understand it. But there's enough track record there to say Bill can have success like this. Most guys can't, and I get it, but he has shown his ability to both see talent and develop it. Because for all the people that want to talk about last year's offensive line was very low on the list of problems for Oklahoma. Whatever it may have been, I think you can point to a game or two where maybe the offensive line wasn't what you wanted it to be. But, guys, they put up 200 on Texas. Nobody put 200 on Texas. And you can say Dylan Gabriel, excuse it however you want. You still did it. So
the 5 guys, Josh, Bray Walker, Savion Byrd, Nate Anderson, Andrew Rame, Cayden Green.
Yeah. Andrew Rame will be drafted, and he's the only one that will leave Oklahoma as a draft pick. And that says something. I mean, and I talking to people around that program and, and people that have had plenty of conversations with Bill, there is always this, he just looks at things a little differently than some other people. Now, the risk you run into with that is what Bob did late in his time as the head man, where it was just kind of, we get the ones we're supposed to. Man, you start doing that, living that life that you're smarter than everybody else, that's going to be a problem.
So I'm trying to think, with the Thor guy, did he go to Louisville?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thor Griffith.
And he would have been a guy perfect for Oklahoma to make a hard run at, if they knew right now, right?
Well, he plays.
Well, he's a D lineman.
Oh, he's a defensive lineman?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just heard Thor and I thought offensive lineman. So anyway, no, I'm stupid. Moving on. So
I could see Bill recruiting him, trying to get him to do that. Hey, come play guard for me.
Sure.
So, outside of that, portal-wise, we can talk about, Burks that they just picked up yesterday. What is Deion Burks as a player comp for you, Josh, from what you've seen?
And again, this is a guy, and I know George Nettie mentioned it on the practice report yesterday on Tuesday, because yes, I do listen, guys, always listening.
Thank you.
There are a lot of people out there that think he has day 1, day 2 kind of potential. He has big time speed. Good guy, can play inside, outside. It's not fair because of the relationship so many people have with this guy. But there's some Sterling Shepard there, that ability to go downfield, stretch, but he can also be a guy that works across the middle. I think he has a little more speed than Sterling did. But, that kind of player that if it all works out, he could have a fringy All-American kind of year. He has that kind of ability.
Is he? I don't know. I look at him, and it's mainly size. I don't know if the games match up, but Zay Flowers, is he a little bit like that?
That's not a bad one, Kerry. It's not something I had thought of, but that's not bad. Because he can go like Zay Flowers. Good. He's a little bigger, but and for those that don't know, Zay Flowers, first round pick, big time guy,
Boston College guy.
Yeah, the rare Boston College first rounder. So, But yeah, that I like that pretty well. That's a good comp. It's a lot. I don't know that I'd say he's quite on that level because his burst isn't quite like that.
Yeah.
Flowers was pretty rare,
exceptional.
But I mean, you're not wildly off the mark. Again, talking to some people, I think Oklahoma is done at wide receiver in the portal. I think that was the guy they wanted. They got the guy they wanted, and they're good.
How about running back? Is there any movement there? I mean, as Eddie noted, Tawi Walker's back at practice. Is there any talk that maybe, because you have the DeMarco Murray, supporting him on Twitter, is there any talk that, and I don't know, did you guys catch wind? Is it a deal where, they told him, we just don't have a scholarship for you, and he's like, okay, I'm going to go find somewhere that has a scholarship for me. Is it possible they came back to him with, the guys leaving, and they said, okay, you can have a scholarship if you want to stay?
With as agree or disagree, Josh, with as active as they are in the transfer portal in terms of the running back position, it would make me think that it was a situation with Tawi that you go, wait it out. You can enter the portal on the 29th or whatever, but we need your body. We need your
and you need
presence,
the film.
and you need the film, which is interesting. Like, I don't think that he has ever officially entered the portal. I know he made the announcement, but I haven't seen his name out there in terms of actually in the portal. I don't think that Brent would allow him to play or practice for the bowl game if his name was actually in the portal.
I would say also, guys, the last time a lot of people saw him, he was hurt.
Exactly.
So, it's a chance to say, hey, I'm healthy, I'm good, I'm ready to go, just watch me do whatever I'm going to do against Arizona and then move forward. So I think that that could be also a kind of jumping off point for him where he gets to show a lot of schools. Because, guys, I don't think Tawi Walker is going to get a scholarship anywhere that's like OU level. But if you told me some group of 5 teams wouldn't beat down his door to give him 20 carries a game, I think you're crazy. I think he'd be unbelievable at I would say even bigger than a North Texas, but something like that. They should be falling all over themselves to give him an opportunity because Tawi Walker is a good player that if you can get to a little lower level where his speed and the lack thereof isn't as noticeable, he's a dynamic, probably 1,000-yard back in the right situation.
But the fact that they are still pursuing the running back spot, does that maybe make you think that the door, even though they're being nice on the way out, the door is going to be closed because they still want to add at least one piece?
Yeah, I think, obviously, if he wants to come back in his current standing, absolutely they'd let him come back. But as far as a scholarship, yeah, I completely think so. And, Eddie and I were kind of working on some stuff before the pod started, and I like where they are with Sam Franklin, the running back from UT Martin. Again, and I keep kind of beating this drum of people saying, oh, he's a small school guy. Go look at his numbers. All that dude has done is produce, and UT Martin plays some SEC schools. I believe they played
Georgia,
maybe Alabama. And okay, that's who it was.
Year.
I was like, I wanted to say it was maybe Tennessee the year before, Alabama. They usually play one big SEC school for that, that SEC payday. And they're a good program. I think he's up for the National Player of the Year, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that's been voted on.
Yeah, he was up.
Yet,
he was up for the Walter Payton Award, which is basically the Heisman,
for that division.
FCS. Yeah. Is it FCS? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So he's a good player and has some burst. Like I think what we've talked about, maybe as fast as we know Gavin Sawchuk is. There were times where you were just like, I feel like there's more yardage out there that wasn't picked up at times in the run game, and you wonder if he's the kind of guy that has the knack to kind of find that yardage and turn, the 5 into 15.
By the way, there was something that we were talking about yesterday we haven't brought up, and that's the players, and maybe it was Jackson Arnold, Bob, but the players talking about how the offense really isn't changing for the bowl game.
Yep, that was definitely one of the questions that we had to ask. And it's like, yep, this is still Levy,
which Joe John knows that offense as well as anybody.
Using those terms, and then when we get into winter and spring, then we'll start really tinkering with this. So if you're expecting something to be totally different, like Seth had just blown it all up, that won't happen.
Yeah, if you're expecting like triple running back sets or something, they won't have enough tight ends to be tight end heavy by the time the bowl game gets here, I don't think. But
what do you guys think of that? Do you feel I feel like that's a little bit of a missed opportunity with 15 practices and your future quarterback and all that stuff? Like, am I crazy? Because I'm not saying you can install everything they want to do, but it feels like that's an opportunity to start putting some of that stuff in and getting Arnold comfortable.
I don't know, man. Is many penalties as this offensive line has had procedurally and all that stuff.
Fair.
You want to start putting in new stuff in the run game with a new quarterback, I think that's a potential disaster.
You might be right.
But spring gets here, I think that's a good time to start messing and tinkering and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think I took it, Bob, really as they're trying to do the most they can to help Jackson Arnold in this game. And keeping the offense similar helps him go out there and not think so much and just do what he knows how to do.
Yeah, I mean, just have him come to you, say, this is what I feel very comfortable with. Tailor it toward that way. I mean, just get through this game, and then he'll have a crash course of his own throughout the winter and spring, and then move on from there. But yeah, you can't just throw a new book at him and say, here, learn it, and then we got to go play here in a couple weeks. And he mentioned, like, we're doing the same stuff that we would do even if Dylan was here. There's some truth to that, but you would hope they're simplifying it just a little bit, or not having as many packages. Just do what Jackson does very, very well, and what we all think that's going to be a lot of things.
All right, I think we've all been seeing our Twitter feeds or X feeds full of coaching visits right now. Josh, a lot of that's going on. What can you tell us about maybe some of the highlights so far of in-home visits by Venables, by coaches? I know I saw a picture of Brian Kelly on visiting the McKinley brothers. We don't know if any bodies were left behind.
Well, I would hope not. I did see that Dave Aranda was out in. Did you see that, Josh? Dave Aranda was out in Oaks Christian, out in, what is that? Los Angeles, Malibu, San Diego, wherever.
Westlake Village.
Village. Yeah. The backyard that this kid had, it was like the biggest power move of all time. It was but like literally this house backed up to the Pacific Ocean. It was the most beautiful home I've ever seen.
Did you see? Was Lincoln Riley like photobombing it from just behind? Or
he had binoculars. He was down in a bush down in the bottom of on the beach.
Oh, yeah. And we kind of touched on it with the Cayden Green stuff.
The Eddie Pierre-Louis
was
visit.
Yeah, he was on his way to see Eddie Pierre-Louis when that all kind of went down. And that's why, obviously he wasn't at that practice on Tuesday. So, again, and I put something up in Woke. I like where Oklahoma is there still for Eddie Pierre-Louis. I don't think that it doesn't seem like anything's changing. I know UCF had kind of tried to mount a run here. But I like where Oklahoma is. And when you consider that Oklahoma was thought to be battling with Miami, Oregon, and UCF, it's hard to say that OU's NIL is just a lost cause. I mean, those are some heavy hitters in that particular world. And for Oklahoma to possibly come out with a win here, I think this is a good sign. Now, I will say the other one that really stands out and is going to be notable to people is Oklahoma will be by to see Dominic McKinley on Thursday night. They're going to go in home. I expect it to be Todd Bates and Brent Venables. And the really interesting piece that is starting to emerge, it sounds like he's not going to sign, I guess, a week from today. Wow, as we sit here. He's going to sign in February from what it looks like. So that gives Oklahoma a little more time to try and get him to campus. Now, it also gives A&M time to kind of rebuild that relationship since everybody he knew is gone. So he's having to learn Mike Elko and kind of the whole staff. So we'll see what that amounts to. But again, if he signed a week from now, I wouldn't like Oklahoma's chances. In February, I still don't love them, but it gives you're giving them a little more clock. You got the rebound off the missed basket, and you get to try and set up again. So they'll see if they can get something together. And, guys, the thing I'll note is we know Oklahoma has a huge need at defensive tackle. So far in the portal, they've offered Chris McClellan, and that's it. Nobody else. Nobody else that's even clearly a target. Now, there was a kid that went in last night from Houston that I think is kind of an interesting possibility that I'm going to keep an eye on. McCardle, something like that. I don't. Again, these names are coming so fast right now. But I think it also may say something about them trying to make sure they've got a spot for McKinley or anyone else that might come out of the portal. Some names that we've mentioned before, and we'll continue to watch and see who may show up.
You look at McKinley. We've talked about this a lot. Timing of your in-home visit. Is it weird they're doing it before this first period if you think it's going to February instead of waiting till late January?
That's the interesting thing to me, Bob, and I wonder a little bit because I think this is all coming like the February signing, if that's going to be, again, that's kind of been reported. I don't know that Dom has come out and said it, but that's kind of the common belief. Now, if that comes to pass, I almost wonder if they pull Brent off of this and say, hey, we're going to wait until January. We'll let you go in. And maybe they send in Jay Valai or they send in Ted Roof or they send in every defensive staffer they have not named Brent Venables. So, they need to shoot their shot in the biggest way they can to maybe try and push this to February unless they think they can get him on campus this weekend, which I don't think is going to happen. So, again, that is an interesting moving target, and it's a good catch, Bob, because if they feel confident he's not going to sign until February, I wouldn't bring Brent Venables to this visit.
All right, now let's go over the timeline real quick. Visits, dead period, all that stuff. How does this all shake down before signing day, the early signing day?
You would ask me that. You know that I'm terrible with these
You'll
things.
have a quiet.
Bob's right here.
It'll be a quiet period this week. I mean, you can only start having contact with them on your campus, and then beginning Monday will be a dead period, and it's just gonna, just be the calls and texts like usual. But yeah, you'll have your little contact period on campus Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then that's it.
Now, the one interesting thing, we talked about this in the conference room the other day, or I think this was a Zoom we were having, just talking about, signing day, and we are going to put together something that we've never done on signing day before. We're very excited about it. We'll tell you more about it as we get closer. But we're trying to plan out exactly everything that we're going to be doing. The situation with Xavier Robinson is very interesting to me. Like, he is going to be able to practice with the team here coming up. So, like, his signing day is
supposed to be today.
It's supposed to be
supposed to be today at 2. We got wind of this last year, and Derek LeBlanc obviously didn't materialize in anything. And
this is the running back from Carlisle.
Yep, and then Caleb Hicks was another one of those guys that got to practice with the team at the bowl game, and it sounds like Xavier Robinson, he really wants to do that, and that would be a spot that needs it, right? I mean, we're talking about lack of numbers at running back. This would give him a great chance. Like, he wouldn't be buried down in the depth chart to where he wouldn't get any reps. He'd get a good full couple weeks of getting an idea of what life's about to be like.
I have a hard time believing DeMarco Murray's going to let him play in a bowl game.
Oh, no.
Well, no, they just practice.
No.
Yeah.
I don't even think that you can play.
No, you can't.
I think
no.
so. I don't think they even can.
Oh,
yeah.
they can just practice.
Yeah, they just practice.
I knew there was a fourth one last year. We've all remembered LeBlanc, Hicks, and McCown. Ashton Sanders was the fourth
that's right.
one. He was the other
yeah.
guy that showed up, and I couldn't remember who it was, but finally found it on Twitter. And it was a Bob Prisbillo tweet, so make sure you're getting your B. Prisbillo follows in there. But yeah, it like I said, I think that's really interesting. Guys, as we're working on this signing day show, I think that's going to be a lot of fun, letting people see and hear these guys, because I know a lot of people love the Danny Okoye thing we did when he signed or when he committed. So yeah, sorry, I clearly have upset the masses.
What's the guy at Spider-Man that gives the spoilers in every interview he does?
Yeah, I have no idea, but I know what
Tom
you mean.
Holland,
Did I give too much?
Well, we're trying to.
You mean the actor? Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom always says way too much.
Yes.
Yep.
We're trying to build
Damn
something.
it.
Build the suspense, Josh. It's okay.
Okay. This is perfect. Just everybody that heard that giant long beep that just got put in. That was really exciting news that you missed out on. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, I don't care. We're going to put together, something really cool with, a lot of the signees. So looking forward to it. So outside of that, I mean, before we hit the number 11 ranked team in the country, although we are having a hoops report, we're recording it today, so we don't have to go, Josh, don't worry, we don't have to go too in deep because we got a whole hoops report to go over. But finals week is always interesting for basketball, Bob, because they don't schedule a lot of games purposefully. They've got a winnable game coming up, and then the Jordan Classic, which I can't wait to see how that all plays out. I don't even know, is Florida good in basketball this year?
Middle of the road.
Okay.
Florida-Michigan's actually a pretty good game. It's just not between two very good teams.
But OU will play North Carolina, a team they still have never beaten in basketball, which is just fascinating to me. Even Billy Tubbs took a great team against them in the NCAA tournament, got upset. I think they were an 8 seed, and OU was a 1 seed. I think that was the Rick Fox days, maybe?
Yep.
J.R. Reed, was he on that team?
He might have been. I don't know.
Anyway.
But then you got Blake and Hansbrough. Yep.
Oh, God, what a pussy that guy was. Hansbrough just basically took himself out of that game because he was scared of Blake. I mean, I love that game, but, God, they had too many players. That's when I bought my house during that tournament because I was on the road finalizing buying my house. And I couldn't have been happier because that whole tournament was just probably the best sporting event that I've covered in my life. Anyway, so now you've got me fired up because now that I think about Hansborough being such a pussy and basically taking himself out of the game, I want them to win this game now. But anyway, number 11 in the they're now ranked higher in the AP than they are Ken Palm, right?
Yes. Yeah, and the net, and it's just the mental toughness they showed against Arkansas. It was the first question I asked to Porter on Saturday. It's just, you're up 12. The Razorbacks are coming in the second half. Couple quick turnovers. Now it's down to 6. And just a trust-building moment where Porter lets them figure it out, doesn't call timeout. Then it gets up to 19. Then Musselman does what Musselman does. And then you're like, wow, this team's 9-0 very, very quickly.
Musselman is one of those guys, I always think, I don't know how Eddie's going to feel about him.
I think he's an insufferable asshole. If he was my coach, I would want to run through a wall for him.
Yeah, okay.
If you're...
Because you said some things going into that game where you're like, I love that guy.
I do, but I also hate him.
He's entertaining, if nothing else.
I think he's a really good basketball coach. I mean, just look what Arkansas has done
really
in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. He's a great recruiter. Getting Nevada to what that was incredible with those twins that they had out there, but he's insufferable. I will say, though, in terms of just what last week was with the win over Providence in Arkansas, and I've talked to you about this, Bob, it's incredible to me. The one thing that really sticks out about this group so far through the first 9 games is every time that somebody makes a run at them, they answer back with and it's a statement of a punch. Whether it be a 14-0 run to push it back out to 19, whether it be in falling behind in the second half against Providence, and then going on that big run that they did on Tuesday last week. It's been really impressive, and to see how it's kind of come together with so many new pieces. I don't know, man. I still don't think that this is like a Final Four team or anything like that, but they're almost a quarter way into the season now, and you're starting to look, and it's like they're still undefeated. They have a guy in J.V. McCollum that's receiving a bunch of national praise, as well as a guy like Sam Godwin is leading the country in offensive rebounding right now. It's just insane to me.
They're all doing their roles. They don't care how little or how big they are. They're doing it to their best ability. And what's funny, Carolina plays Kentucky Saturday. OU could be ranked ahead of Carolina when they meet up on Wednesday.
Sure.
Here's my question to you, Bob. Like Eddie said, not really a Final Four team, but I wonder about this team just looking at the I think Jalen Moore's had kind of a couple of subpar games.
That's fine. Yeah.
And I think he's just fantastic athletically. He can do a lot more than he's doing on both ends of the floor, I think. But you look at Otega Oweh and his 3-point percentage. He doesn't take a lot of them, but what is he, like 80% almost now?
He's pretty solid. He's picking his spots, and he's making. He knows he doesn't need to take 3 or 4 a game, but when he hit a dagger one against Arkansas, that one really crushed any hope that the Hogs were about to make another run.
He's 9 for 11 from 3 right now. Through
It's
9
insane.
games. I mean, his jump shot, it looks smooth.
It looks fantastic. But that's my question. Like, is he someone that could really step up and take this team to another level offensively?
I don't know if I want him to. I like the role that he's doing and let Javion and Los get him involved and let him do it. He doesn't need to try to take control, take command. I don't know if he would be able to do it. I don't know if his ball handling skills, if his ability to create his own shot is at that type of level when he's got Javion and Los just making it a lot easier for him.
What about, like...
Might be a year away from that because if you looked at him last year, Kevin Henry actually came on with us this morning. For some reason, he was up at the studio. And, like, last year, he was basically a bull in a china shop.
Yes,
he would try to do everything that he could, head down, get to the lane. This year, like, he's completely comfortable settling for a 15-foot jump shot. And I think he's confident within, the work that he obviously has put in being able to knock those down in the given circumstance.
How about, just talking about guys like that can keep coming on? I would assume that's like Suarez.
Yes.
I think,
Dart Hard and Suarez.
Hard.
Those two guys are the most important guys, I think, in terms of when they get into the Big 12 play, that you don't need it every night, but when somebody doesn't shoot the ball well, whether it be McCollum or Los or Owe, whoever,
or Hughley,
they
if
need,
he gets a three.
they need him to be able, they need Suarez to do what he did Saturday, play 25 minutes, be able to kind of do the dirty work.
Yeah, he was on his way to his best game of the season until foul trouble.
Yeah.
And then the technical, and then he fouled out.
Sure.
But, I mean, the way he played in the first half, you're like, that's going to carry. That's going to get you through a lot of Big 12 games if he can bring that.
It's also crazy that we talk about this team, and the one guy that we usually mention last, but we probably should be mentioning with Los or with McCollum, Jalen Moore is kind of an interesting, I feel like he's the, I think Kevin Henry used the phrase glass eater today. Like, he's kind of that muscle, if you will. And I think he's a little bit crazy.
He's got to be smarter, exactly.
Yeah, like
he's got to be a little smarter.
He kind of loses his shit often, but I think that's a good thing. Like, every team needs one of those guys. Tyler Hansbrough was a little bit like that in terms of North Carolina. Now, I think Jalen Moore is a lot tougher and a lot more athletic.
When Jalen Moore is eyeing you 94 feet, trying to guard you as you dribble up the court, that's a scary sight.
Sure.
As he's staring into your soul.
All right, much more to come on the on the Hoops Report today. That'll be coming out on YouTube, of course. Our YouTube channel, if you haven't looked at it, you're not a YouTuber, become one because it's fantastic content. We're pretty much anytime anything happens of note, we're going to do a little YouTube, and Josh has been doing a lot of them, instant reactions, and we have practice reports, and we're all going to be in San Antonio. I'm planning on doing a lot of stuff while we're down there as well, and I don't know, maybe there'll be a day where Josh comes over to San Antonio and all 5 of us are in the same place. Yep, for that?
News to me.
I mean, I could be, but it wouldn't be like I would just be coming over there for bowl stuff because the All-American Bowl gets started later than ever this year. I won't be going over there for that until after New Year's. So it's kind of a weird setup.
We were talking about this the other day. There's that little offshoot because the
Army
San
game
Antonio
is in Frisco.
The Army game is in Frisco now. Like, what's that outfit or outlet? Is that even anything worth paying that much attention to?
The one in Dallas, it will be just because there's several. Like Danny Okoye is going to be in that game. I think maybe Zion Raggins is in that game. There's 3 or 4 OU guys that are going to be in that one. Isaiah Autry will be there. So I may try and sneak my way up there and see that one a little bit. It'll be tough on signing day week, but we'll see if we can make that happen.
And that's Saturday. This Saturday.
Mm-hmm. The game is half.
Or they have a practice this Saturday. That's what it was.
Yes,
yeah.
I think
yeah. I want to say the game. That can't be right. I've got to look at it because even as I look for the Army All-American Bowl, it's given me the All-American Bowls.
Yeah, and I brought that up because it is confusing because Army was associated with the All-American Bowl for so long. Now they have this little deal in Frisco, and then they'll have the one in San Antonio, which is a totally different thing.
Yeah, and they still, and the All-American Bowl in San Antonio still uses the same colors. Like, so I get how it's, because again, people that listen to this podcast have heard me try to call it the Army All-American Bowl 37 times. So like,
We all
clearly
kinda still do,
not
yeah.
with
Like
it either. Yeah,
American
it's a hard
Family
habit.
Insurance or something goofy.
That's what that's what
it
what they would do is, I remember this goes all the way back to like Trajan Bridges. Like, they would have the separate announcement when they announce, okay, this person has been invited, and it was always the American. I think it went all the way back to Sterling.
Yeah, they had those jersey presentations.
Yeah.
I've been to a couple of those. Monday, December 18th is the 2023 U.S. Army Bowl in Frisco. So coming up on Monday.
Is that televised? I mean, it's got to be, right?
Something would tell me nationally televised Bally Sports.
Ugh.
So good luck.
Nope.
Good luck if you're
Is
going to
that
be able to
nationally
watch
Cut
it.
your
televised?
cable, good luck.
Is that what we're going with?
Unless you get some Fubo.
Does that count as
Now you get some
national?
Fubo, you can get some Bally Sports. Go check out our offer on Fubo on Sooner Scoop. They didn't pay
Absolutely.
for that. So anyway, moving into Eddie has
Josh, just real quick. Galena Park, North Shore,
it Galena?
Duncanville, like edition number 3 or number 4 for the state championship down in Texas. Any chance that Duncanville has a chance to knock off North Shore? Who won it last year? I can't remember.
Duncanville finally got it done last year.
Okay, because they had come up short the last couple years, right?
Yep. North Shore had gotten them the previous couple of years, like Zach Evans and that crew.
That's right. Who
so-
didn't necessarily play at the state championship game because he wouldn't give up his cell phone, right?
Oh my God.
Glory
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, he wouldn't give it, like the night. That's a whole story. Like the night before the state championship game, he didn't want to give up a cell phone when it was supposed to be lights out, and basically didn't end up playing in the game. And then the year before that, he'd had a whole incident where he didn't feel like he got enough carries down the stretch, and he wasn't even really celebrating when they won the state title. There was a reason that a lot of people got leery of Zach Evans. But anyway, I think this one's probably Duncanville. I think they're a little better at quarterback. Obviously, Colin Simmons, Cayden Durham, you go down the list, they got a lot of dudes. And the way they just obliterated North Crowley, who I saw a couple of weeks ago, pretty much do the same thing to Prosper. And I mean, that is pretty damn impressive. But it should be a good week for Dallas, because you've got that one. Oh, and yes, there's my robo vacuum making tons of noise, so I apologize to everybody listening. But you've got them. You've got South Oak Cliff going for a third straight, and then you have DeSoto, who I saw 2 weeks ago with Tiger Ryden, the running back that OU's after in the class of 2025, and that's it's DeSoto. They're defending state champions. They are really stinking good yet again.
Humble Summer Creek, that's not necessarily a school that I'm too familiar with. They just having one of those types of seasons?
They've kind of been on the rise for 3 or 4 years, and frankly should have lost a couple of weeks ago to Zion Kearney and Fort Bend Hightower, and they were down like 34-21 with like 6 minutes to go, and scored a late touchdown, and Hightower goes for it on 4th and short, doesn't get it, and Summer Creek goes down and wins. I believe 35-34 was the final on that one. So Zion Kearney had a big touchdown in the game, but it was I believe his last high school touchdown. So, or not, I believe it was. So they're a good team that's really got a good staff. They've kind of been coming along just kind of year by year. Okay, get to the first round. Okay, get to regionals. Get to region finals. Like they just kind of kept working their way through it. And now they're there. For those watching, if you want to look for a name on Summer Creek, remember 2025 defensive end Chad Woodfork is a guy I've seen several times. Big, long, athletic pass rusher. Doesn't have an OU offer at this point, but it absolutely will not surprise me if that changes in fairly short order.
All right, we're going to be back again on Friday on YouTube after we talk to Brent Venables. That should be an interesting conversation with the head coach. This will be the last time we talk to him before everybody heads down to San Antonio. The entire crew will be down in San Antonio, and Eddie and I are even going to go out there on Christmas Day and shoot video and photo because that's the only practice availability that we got. But George is going to come down as well. George is trying to get Eddie to ride a roller coaster, which
I told him I would ride the roller coaster. I'm just not going to spend 5 hours walking around in an amusement park.
I think it takes that long just to get to the roller coaster.
Well, then we might not be able to do it.
But just tell him to grow up, like you did before. I fully support that. Grow up, George. He's not even here to defend himself. All right, that's going to do it. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.